Hey guys, it's Epic, and today I am outside on a cold, wet, dreary day in Washington. A pretty typical winter day in Washington, at least for the lowlands. Up in the mountains we get a lot more snow and a lot more cold weather. But I was just sitting here thinking about winter backpacking tips. Now I know for a lot of you the backpacking season probably ended somewhere between mid-September and the end of October. You guys just don't want to come out and deal with the winter conditions. But for the more intrepid backpackers who like to go out during the off-season, I figured I'd give you some tips for winter backpacking. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is keeping warm on the trail, and the key to that is going to be a layering system. You want to make sure that you have layers that you can put on and take off to regulate your body temperature depending on the level of exertion you're experiencing at any given time. Now, there's a little bit of room for variation on this, and every backpacker does things a little bit differently, but for me, this really kind of falls into four categories: having a base layer, a mid layer, a packable jacket, and a hard or soft rain shell. For your base layer, if you want to go with natural materials, a nice alpaca or merino long sleeve, lightweight, works very well. You can also use a polyester nylon blend synthetic, which is usually cheaper on your pocketbook. For me, a mid layer usually consists of either a high loft fleece or an Alpha Direct pullover. It helps me regulate my body temperature when things start to get a little cold on trail. Alpha Direct is particularly great because it vents off heat, and so you can usually wear it in cool temperatures while you're hiking. A good packable jacket, either synthetic or down, is great for having while you're in camp. Now, I won't wear one of these for the most part when I'm hiking because my body temp is up too high and it'll make me start to sweat. But once I start to cool down in camp, that jacket is great to have to keep me warm. Lastly, you're going to want to have yourself a hard or soft shell to protect you from both wind and rain. A lot of your insulative layers are warm until that wind cuts through you and then it just sucks the heat right out of you. You're going to want to make sure you can block the wind and contain some body heat. It's essential to have a rain layer for that, to say nothing of the fact that, especially if you're hiking in places like I am in Washington, rain is pretty prevalent during the wintertime. If you're doing your layering system right, you should have everything you need to keep warm or cool down as needed. So the next one goes hand in hand with the layering system, and that is cover your extremities. Most studies have shown that 10 to 20% of your body heat can be lost through your hands, feet, and head. So you want to make sure that in cold temperatures, those are properly insulated. A good pair of wool socks, gloves that are appropriate for the temperature, and something to cover your head. Usually a down beanie or a merino wool beanie, even alpaca, will work really well. But you want to make sure that you cover those extremities. This applies not only to hiking on the trail, but also when you're laying in your tent or hammock at night. So the next one can be a little bit hard to gauge, and that is carrying microspikes on trail. If you're in a place where you're going to encounter a lot of snow, it's hard to tell whether or not the snow is going to be of a consistency that requires microspikes or not. So for me, the general rule is if I know that I'm going to encounter snow at all, I make sure I pack them. This is one of those few cases where in backpacking, I think it's better to have and not need, just for safety concerns. So if you're going to go out in a place that has high elevation or you know you're about to encounter snow, you might want to consider packing some microspikes. Okay, so the next one might not be as obvious to people, but that's to carry a good pair of polarized sunglasses during winter. And the reason for that is that a lot of times when you're hiking in areas that have snow and the sun is shining, the UV light that's reflecting off of the snow can cause photokeratitis, also known as snow blindness. This is basically when the UV reflects off the snow like a big mirror and damages your corneas. This is not something you want, it's painful, it's a horrible thing to have to go through, and it can be prevented with a good pair of polarized sunglasses. While we're talking about UV light, another thing that can cause is sunburn. So it's a good idea to bring sunscreen even during the wintertime. It also isn't a bad idea to bring a shemagh or a buff or some sort of face covering that can protect you from UV that's reflecting off of the snow. Next on my list is practicing your navigation skills. This is incredibly crucial during the winter time. I really think that you should have good navigation skills at all times of the year when you're going out backpacking, but in winter time, your trail could be covered in snow and disappear completely. Signage can be obscured, landmarks can be obscured, and you're really going to have to be able to know how to navigate through that. Always know how to use the GPS that you're carrying with you, and I would also strongly recommend knowing how to use just a basic map and compass, specifically because electronics can fail and maps never run out of batteries. In summertime, when the heat is beating down on you, it's pretty easy to tell when you're feeling parched and you need a drink. But for some reason in winter, during cold temperatures, we kind of get tricked into not feeling thirsty. But it doesn't change the fact that we are still losing water, both through water vapor and through sweat. So you want to make sure you make a conscious effort to hydrate, even during the wintertime when you're hiking on trail. So the next thing that I want to talk about is proper insulation in your sleep system for the temperatures that you're going to encounter. And I know this sounds like it should be pretty easy, but it can get kind of complicated because how companies make sleeping bags and quilts. Usually they're using an EN or ISO rating system. You can find this rating system sometimes printed directly on the bag or quilt. Sometimes you can find it on their website, or sometimes you can't find it at all, especially with smaller cottage companies. To make matters more complicated, you have to know the difference between a comfort rating, a lower limit rating, and an extreme temperature rating. And this can all get very confusing and frustrating, and you don't want to bring the wrong thing out on trail and find out that it's not what you need. So to cut through that red tape, what I generally do is I bring a sleeping bag or quilt that is 10 to 20 degrees warmer than the lowest temperatures that I expect to encounter. For those of you who are going to use a tent while backpacking, it's important to understand what R value is. For mild winter conditions, I would recommend an R value of at least 4, but you can get upwards of 5, 6, 7, or even 8 in extremely cold temperatures. It's important to bring the proper sleeping pad to make sure you have adequate insulation between you and the ground. If you climb into your properly insulated sleeping system and you're still feeling a bit of a chill, or you just want to warm up faster, a good trick of the trade is to get your camp stove out, warm up some water, stick it in your water bottle, put it in one of your socks so you have a protective layer, and then just shove it down in your sleeping bag. It'll really help you warm up quick. Another thing that can help you get warm in your sleeping bag or quilt at night is to eat healthy fats or high protein. Your body utilizes protein at night for muscle repair, and that muscle repair generates heat. Your body also, in the process of digesting those healthy fats, goes through a process called thermogenesis, which also cranks out BTUs and helps you maintain your body temperature in your sleeping bag or quilt at night. So the next one is also one of those ones that may seem counterintuitive and may surprise you, and that is don't breathe into your sleeping bag at night. I know that it seems like blowing hot air into your sleeping bag may be a good idea, but you're also blowing moisture in there, and that can temporarily lower the insulation value of your sleeping bag, making you colder at night. So another thing that'll help keep you warm at night is to urinate before bedtime. And it's not for the reason that most people think. I've heard a lot of people say that it's good to empty your bladder so your body's not wasting valuable body heat on keeping that urine warm inside your body. But there really is no good scientific evidence to suggest that this has any effect on your ability to maintain warmth at night. A more practical reason to do this is simply so you don't have to get up during the middle of the night and get cold to go out and do your business. Now, if some people are of the age or of a condition that makes it inevitable to get up in the middle of the night to go urinate, then what you might want to consider doing is carrying a pee bottle so you don't have to get out of your hammock or tent to take care of your business. For those who aren't squeamish, another benefit of having this is that can turn into a warm bottle as long as you screw the lid on real tight that you can shove down into your sleeping bag to do that water bottle trick we talked about earlier. So my final tip is to make sure that you take your batteries out of your electronics and put them in your sleeping bag at night to keep them warm. When batteries get cold, the ion activity in them slows down and it makes it harder for those batteries to maintain a charge. If things get really cold, your battery can go through a process called lithium plating, which can permanently damage those batteries and render them useless on trail. So make sure that you keep them warm in your sleeping bag at night, especially in really cold nights. Well guys, that's all I have for you today. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Drop me a comment down below and let me know some of your winter backpacking tips. If you like what we do, be sure to like and subscribe and hit the bell icon so you know when we make future content. You can also check us out on Instagram, consider supporting us on Patreon, and you can also check us out on our website at epicoutdoors.com. Now get off your butts and go play outside. Hi everyone, come and check out our new website epicoutdoors.com for hiking videos and tons of gear recommendations. If you like what you see, consider subscribing so that you know when we make future content. We also have a hiker resources page where you can plan your next adventure. Whether you're a first timer or seasoned backpacker, epicoutdoors.com has something for everyone. See you guys down the trail.